And the universe we love today for our top story of the week, the Kevin Feige article. Which article? There's 90 of them, but it's the press conference. The press conference that Kevin Feige gave to select reporters, Marvel Studios headquarters, wearing a Fantastic Four hoodie and a Wonder Man hat, is what I've been told.
That makes sense. That's
A,
on
a,
brand. Of
a walking billboard of a human being, Kevin
course.
Feige. And you respect it. The hustle is fantastic.
Yeah.
Um, David, lots of stuff to talk about throughout this article. We touch on big things such as the future of the MCU, smaller things like little decisions made in upcoming projects, all the way through middle line things like what we're excited about this week with Fantastic Four First Steps.
Yeah.
I say we get right into it. Let's start with the big one first. We're just going to go through the big topics here. I'll read a few quotes, a few key takeaways, and then I want to hear your initial reactions to these big headlines coming out of the press conference. David Thompson, are you ready?
Oh, I was born ready.
Born ready. Lance Stevenson, shout out. The biggest topic from the press conference, I think, whole and large, because it talks to the entire universe, the future plan of the MCU. Talking about Marvel Studios currently has a 7-year plan, arbitrary number, I'm sure. And after Secret Wars, the biggest thing here is that Kevin Feige confirms that after Secret Wars, the MCU will be reset or rebooted into a more singular timeline. Basically, go back to the idea before Loki when we learned that things are splitting left and right. He said it's not a reboot, it's a reset, even though those words could be interchangeable if you ask the right people. He also had a quote that I wanted to point out here. He said Avengers Endgame was all about endings, wrapping up the Infinity Saga, and Secret Wars will be all about beginnings. He says launching a new era of the MCU post Secret Wars with a more singular timeline. David Thompson, with all this news, kind of the idea post Secret Wars to spring something new. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think one of the Russo brothers said the whole like Secret Wars and is or Doomsday and Secret Wars is like about like a beginning in the past as well, like a few months ago. So that was kind of interesting, like corroboration there of like what we're getting with these two movies. Obviously Secret Wars is the one that, will be that last Avengers film of the multiverse saga leading into whatever this reset is. And I think it's funny. Not a reboot, it's a reset. Let's all call it what it is. A soft reboot, which is what we have been saying for a long time. I
Yeah.
think we were never it was never going to be a hard reboot. I highly doubt maybe eventually, which is kind of ironic because some quotes Feige said about, Cap and Iron Man and stuff. Maybe one day we do a hard MCU reboot. I don't see why you would. I think this is a great opportunity to, keep what's working, add in more, and yeah, I mean, look, I believe in the 7-year plan. I believe that they have a plan. Marvel's Kevin Feige always has a plan. I think, sometimes the plan isn't like what exactly we would want, but there's always a plan. There's always like growing towards something, building towards something. And I'm excited. Like I'm excited to get back to this, but I'm also excited to live in the moment and close out the multiverse saga and enjoy, the next few films, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, and these Avengers movies. So yeah, I think overall, like I think we all kind of knew this is where we were heading, but I'm glad he is expressing this and there's an excitement around it.
Yeah, I think that I agree with you. Anybody who's paying attention could probably have seen this coming. Hearing it from the horse's mouth is a thing. It's a thing worth noting, right? And this is kind of what we've been asking for the last couple of years. Like, hey, Feige, just lay it out. What's up? What I mean? Lock it down for us a little bit
People will be excited to hear the singular timeline thing is
for
coming
sure.
again.
Now, I'm sure there's also if you search Kevin Feige interview on Twitter or something, I'm sure you'll get people saying that this is a horrible interview and everything's terrible. Just know everything's out there, right?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but I think another section of another article I did not know because I was following it on Twitter more than anything. There's like 9 articles covering this shit.
Yeah, it
It's
was
everywhere.
all the trades. I think Collider had one.
CBR, comic book.
Yeah, CBR had one. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy. Um, some more context to this that I think adds to kind of your point here, if I may. He was asked about kind of the post Endgame MCU plan. If Secret Wars is going to kind of be a reset, what have we been doing the last, count me up, 6 years?
Yeah. Yeah. Or
Give or take a COVID year, right?
well, exactly. 'Cause it's been since
5 years.
2021. Yeah.
Yeah. What have we been doing the last 5 years? And he was asked about that, and he laid it out pretty succinctly, I thought. I'm going to read a couple quotes. He mentioned how from Iron Man in 2008 to Endgame in 2019, there were 50 hours of screen time in the MCU.
Yeah.
Since Endgame, like David just said, since 2021 with Black Widow, there have been 102 hours of screen time in the MCU, 127 if you count anime projects. What if Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, X-Men 97, I Am Groot, which I think is an important thing to include there, etc.
Hmm.
Did you ever watch those?
No.
They're cute as fuck.
Never clicked on them. I
They're
should.
5 minutes long. It's a good time.
Yeah.
He mentioned how, pre-in game 50 hours, post-in game 102 cents. The quote says, "That's too much. It's the expansion that is certainly what devalued the output. It was a big company push, and it doesn't take much to push us, Marvel Studios. People have been asking for Miss Marvel for years, and now we can do it, so we do it. Oscar Isaac wants to be new Moon Knight, so we do it. So there was a mandate that we were being put in the middle of, but we also thought it'd be fun to bring these stories to life." Kevin Feige also says it's that expansion that I think led people to say things like, "Do I have to see all of these? It used to be fun, but now do I have to know everything about all of these shows and movies?"
Yeah.
And I think the Marvels hit it the hardest, where people were like, "Okay, I recognize her, Brie Larson, from
Hmm.
$1 billion movie, but who are these other two? Maviani, Tiana Paris. I guess they were in some TV show. I'll skip it." That's what Kevin Feige thinks, or knows probably. Most general audience fans were thinking. Last quote, David.
Hmm.
Some of them were still feeling the residual effects of that notion going into Thunderbolts. I guess I had to. I guess I had to have seen these other shows to understand who this is. If you think about when you actually saw the movie, that was not the case, and we make that movie so it's not the case. But I think we still have to make audiences understand that. Basically, a barrier of entry here. That is what I think the most interesting comments are to me.
Yeah.
Is those quotes about what was happening right after Endgame, what lessons they've learned in that time, and then also, what they've done recently to kind of correct it. Because he says there they were under a mandate to push more content.
Yes.
And much like movies or sports, you have to combine these quotes that very often are PR generated with the actual actions of the company that they're representing. They fired Bob Chapek.
Mm.
They brought Bob Iger back. You have to imagine, based on those quotes and the timeline of everything happening, after Endgame, Bob Chapek took over and said, "Okay, we're the hottest thing in the history of movies right now. We're the biggest movie franchise that's ever existed. Let's double down. Let's put as much out there as we possibly can." So it sounds like not only did they want to put as much out there as they could, because why wouldn't you? They were being told to do more and more and more. And I wonder, had Feige and his team, had the uh, plan makers at Marvel Studios not been put on the mandate to do more and more and more, maybe they realized earlier that maybe less is more in certain areas
Hmm.
of the MCU. And I think Disney Plus, more than anything, not through a wrench, no, but was the learning curve of the MCU. What do we do on there? Who do we put on there? And how much do we combine those elements with the movies that fans clearly still want to feel connected and serial and continuity being maybe not the forefront, but an underlining factor in every or most thing. David, this feels exactly hand in hand with the Chapek era, and since then, what they've done over the last 2 years on Disney Plus and in movies.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I love hearing Feige. just comment on the situation that we've all known. It's well reported that there was literally a mandate. And by the way, guys, like think about it for a second. Take a step back. If you're Disney, you do the same thing.
Why wouldn't you?
Bob Iger handed Chapek the baton with Disney Plus just launching, saying to focus on streaming. Then JPEG probably took it to a different level than maybe Bob Iger would have. I don't know. I don't know everything that happened at Disney, but think about it, guys. And this is kind of the problem with launching your own streaming service is that they had to make content. And why wouldn't you go to your cash cow? Why wouldn't you go to one of your biggest fan bases or multiple of them when you include Star Wars? Like you are going to make streaming content for your brand new streaming service with Marvel content. That is you're going to use Marvel characters. You're going to make this more of a comic book like enterprise in live action where and I think if you approach it from that way, it's a lot more forgivable than what they're like than what maybe you would general audiences consider because like Feige said earlier about like the homework of it all with Thunderbolts, it's true. We watched all the shows and I knew all the characters. I knew who US Agent was and all that. I know who Taskmaster was from Black Widow, which was like semi Disney Plus, halfway, basically Disney Plus series or
Yeah.
movie. But you didn't have to. Similar to comic books in many respects. You can just kind of jump into comics wherever it's at least sometimes and just be like, "Oh, I know that character or okay, like I'll catch up as we go along. I don't need to know everything about that character, but if I want to, I can go back and find it." In the MCU, and that's not how they were marketing it at the time. Of course not. You don't want to market anything as like, you don't have to worry about this.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, this is not the next big thing. Oscar
Right.
Isaac as Moon Knight doesn't really matter. They're never going to say that when releasing the thing. So it is kind of funny looking back. Like, yeah, that's kind of what they're saying, where it's like Miss Marvel, all these things, WandaVision, even talking about, Toyota Paris in the Marvels. It's like you didn't have to see that to go see the Marvels, but I think we were all wired with pre Disney Plus MCU. If you were getting so rewarded if you've seen everything ahead of Endgame, right? Or any of the movies. If you've seen everything ahead of Civil War, you are so rewarded for seeing that movie.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of examples of that. So I think yeah, that's part of what it was. It's really interesting to hear Foggy say all these things. And what I think it means for the future is what we're seeing with Daredevil Born Again. I think we're gonna get what we've already heard about for the last 2 years, basically, since they've already been switching the tracks, right, to change things up, change the direction. We're gonna get shows with more seasons that really have a place just on TV that aren't building to something bigger necessarily on the big screen. That's what I think, even though we're already getting the Punisher and Spider-Man. So, it is pretty interesting. Um, but I think like we will never like one thing that I think this confirms, Feige saying this, that I think is a huge takeaway for everyone. This confirms we will never get back to what we got on Disney Plus from 22 to 23 or whatever that 21 to 23, where we just got all these shows. Like it was
Yeah.
just like it was an explosion on Disney Plus because it's what he just said. Oscar Isaac wants to do it, we'll do it. Miss Marvel, cool. She-Hulk, cool. Secret Invasion, cool. Like it was just pure green light, add, more, 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 more. And we're past that era now.
Yeah, and I also think that looking back, I don't think this devalues what we've gotten on Disney Plus. I am positive that there are Moon Knight fans and Miss Marvel fans and different fans of those different streaming series that read this and thought, "Oh, he hates my thing. He just said my thing doesn't matter." I think that is saying what he's not saying. I think that was the intent of those shows. It's not that they didn't matter, they wanted them to matter. Of course, had it worked out a little differently and they were able to keep the hype post Endgame up of everybody watching everything, loving everything, and engaging with everything the same way they did with Endgame, they would have kept doing it. It clearly just did not work. When you talk to any and all general movie fan that doesn't write for the direct.com like David doesn't do a podcast once a week like I do, mostly everybody I talk to is like, yeah, it just doesn't feel as connected as it used to,
Mhm.
which they're right. something I've been
It
saying on
doesn't.
this show for it, absolutely not. How could it? It
It's
was
the
so
hours thing, though.
at 100%. How can everything be as connected as it was when it was more focused one at a time as opposed to many at the same time? Um, I've been saying this on this podcast for 5 years now. The end game hype of, or the Infinity War, even of the MCU rewatch leading into Infinity War, that was like the coolest thing for movie fans to be like, oh, well, let's rewatch all of these movies before this big final ending.
Hmm.
And yes, of course, the wide majority of MCU fans had been watching these movies for X amount of time. Some of us since 2008, like me. Some of us since 2012 after Avengers. Some of us since Civil War, whatever it might be, right? But so many of MCU fans and general audience fans did that rewatch thing before Infinity War because it was so much fun to do.
Hmm.
And then we were paid off so well 2 years in a row. We weren't just paid off once, we were paid off twice. And it was all great. People did not like Ant-Man and the Wasp, but it didn't matter because it was
Yeah.
all rolling. The
A lot of
ball
people
was
didn't like the
rolling. We were
Miss Marvel or Captain Marvel.
we were wrapped up in it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then after Endgame was over and it was this perfect bow on it ending, Marvel Studios was told, "Hey, keep it going. Keep doing this. Also streaming though. You know, two wheels at a time. Let's do the streaming, but also let's keep it going. Also, COVID. We're going to delay everything a year. You know what I mean? Let's keep that going. So now three wheels at a time, and it's all moving a little, and it was
COVID
too much.
aspect is interesting. Yeah.
It's definitely not the biggest factor, but delaying everything a year, a factor. There's no way it's not.
Well, and the effect it had on the theater going experience too. Like it all was a bad mix overall.
Right.
Like kicking things off with Black Widow half on Disney Plus is not an exciting way to kick off the next phase.
Right. But there was also the challenge of, we just had this momentum, the biggest thing in movie history. Far From Home made $1 billion too. Everybody
Yeah.
loves everything that we're doing all the time forever. We have to wait a whole year before we do anything. We have to wait a year and a half basically until we do anything. So
Yeah.
when you get back, of course, they're going to try to get us back on track as fast as we can. We got what we got. A lot of it was, and here's the other thing, David, and then we'll move on.
Yeah.
The other thing I think is if you've been watching everything, in my opinion, it's not nearly as neat as Endgame, but I think it's been a perfectly exciting story. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I do think things are tied in pretty well together. Loki did explain this Secret Wars thing we're talking about right here, right now. One
Loki does a
timeline
lot of heavy lifting, I think, with all of this.
with the quote unquote multiverse thing,
Yes.
but also there's other multiverse stuff that adds on to Loki.
Hmm.
Loki sparked it. You're absolutely right. But I feel like if you have been watching everything, it's streamlined. Unfortunately, not everybody watches everything, so they need to readjust their plan now, knowing that after the post-end game streaming wars, COVID trifecta. Yeah, I wanted to get the word trifecta in there.
Yeah, it's
Um,
perfect.
Next headline. Sorry, I went off a little bit
No,
there.
that was
I've
great.
been I've been very excited about this.
And by the way, one thing, I mean, it's not the same parallel. TVA is a huge part of Deadpool and Wolverine. That didn't hold that movie back.
No,
Like a streaming aspect doesn't necessarily have to hold a film back. And honestly, one last thing on the Feige quote. I still think that the whole writer's strike had a huge impact on the Marvels
sure.
more than just I don't recognize, Miss Marvel and Tiona Paris. Like it's I think there's definitely more to that than just they started in TV. I recognize Brie Larson, but I'm not going to see this. There is more to that story, and he knows that, of course. But I think that's interesting that is what he boils it down to is that is a direct blame on their. I think honestly, it sounds like he is upset with how much they had to put out on Disney Plus based on just that quote alone. Because I think like you could be a little more reflective on specifically that the MCU bomb that kind of like blew up this whole thing.
Yeah, and I think what we're learning in Superman, what we've learned in Fantastic Four these past couple of months, the power of a press tour also to get ahead of these things is
Yeah.
huge. How many times over would those three have answered the question, do you need to watch WandaVision? Do you need to watch Miss Marvel to understand this movie? It would have
But
been the
yeah,
number one headline. don't need to watch this to watch this. And I think that would have helped.
And last thing, and to what Feige is saying specifically about how, oh, we don't recognize the other two leads. They would if they were on Kimmel and Fallon and Chicken Shop Date and Hot One. You know what I mean? Like if they were doing all
Press
the
tour.
press, there would have just been more juice there. I know he knows that. I think it's fascinating that he points the finger at the whole Disney Plus series. I think it's probably because of Thunderbolts as well. He's like, man, this whole Disney Plus building into a movie didn't work. Which it it didn't.
It's reality.
Yeah. I mean,
And
even Captain America.
you talk to any general audience fan, that's kind of what they're saying. Like, I didn't catch that show, so I'm not super into seeing and any hesitation is a problem.
Yeah, I'd say it worked with WandaVision.
For
And
sure.
Loki to Deadpool and Wolverine if you want to count that. But okay, here we go.
I'm with you there. All right, moving on. I'm so sorry.
No,
Jake Shire. Jake Shire is officially directing X-Men. Jake Shire from Thunderbolts. Um, and Kevin Feige is very excited about it. He says that we're all very lucky to have Jake on X-Men. He also says Jake's an incredibly smart guy and he's an incredibly talented filmmaker. Great experience on Thunderbolts. If you saw the movie, what he did with those character interactions, he also has a pulse on a younger demographic. He's younger than me, yada yada yada. But what he did for X-Men is going to be what he did for Thunderbolts is going to be very important for X-Men because, as in the comics, it'll be a very youth-oriented, focused, and cast movie.
big
X-Men
quote.
confirmed Jake Schreier, confirmed that he's the right guy for the job, which I think both you and I have been saying since day one.
Yeah.
Also confirmed we're getting the kids. We're going back to school. We're going back to the Xavier Institute for Gifted Youngsters. X-Men will be a youth-oriented movie and cast. David Thompson, the Mutant Marathon is back.
Yes, the Mutant Marathon is back. That is the synopsis. That is the thesis statement of what Kevin Feige just said.
Absolutely.
Um, it is kind of funny in a sense because, the latest Foxmen reboot or whatever, it was with the young kids too. That was like the whole point was
Mm-hmm.
to make everything younger. But this is the way to do it, regardless. I think is to and set in modern day. This will be the first time we're getting a set in modern day live action X-Men movie with the young group of teens and young
Yep.
adults. I'm thrilled about this. Thrilled about this movie. Cannot wait to see what they do with it. I'm sure we were good. And this is the casting opening in Hollywood right now in many respects. With the James Bonds of it all, but like from a team perspective, we have a whole. This is the only true reboot happening right now. Like we're about to see with Fantastic Four, the only true reboot happening at Marvel Studios anytime soon, and we got a lot of mutants to fill. Like, I mean, we're gonna get I would say the end cap. This is the last time we're probably gonna see any of the older X-Men in Doomsday and Secret Wars, maybe even just in Doomsday. Going forward, Secret Wars New Beginning. After that, we're gonna get the X-Men movie probably the following year. This is like the clean slate protocol going moving forward. And I cannot wait to see the casting news, which newsflash will probably happen sooner than you think. Like we're going to be learning about new X-Men before we even see Secret Wars guaranteed. Maybe even before we see Doomsday. We'll see.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting when and how they kind of start rolling out the X-Men stuff. Um, I couldn't be more excited about this. If Jake Schreier is able to do what he did in Thunderbolts with the script and with the chemistry and dynamics of each of the characters in X-Men, it's going to be a great movie. It's the thing that makes the X-Men roll. Very similar to what we just saw in Superman, where a lot of people the light bulb turned on, where it's like, oh, this is why people love Superman.
Hmm.
Oh, this is the Superman in the comics everybody's been talking about. I've never seen him in a movie. I now get it. People are going to get that with this kind of X-Men if Jake Schreier can pull off what he did with Thunderbolts. Oh, this is why people love this book so much. This is like poignant, deep, emotional, interesting storytelling, obviously wrapped in a quip, like Marvel Studios is one to do. Um, as far as the X-Men movie and the casting, you're 100% right. on the news that we just talked about, if they're going to, after Secret Wars, kind of start over, reset, build from the ground up again, right? They're obviously starting in a much higher spot than they were with Iron Man. Duh. And what that means is, I think, is you need less in a row to work to reach the levels you were.
Yeah.
Because once you get a few in a row to work, it just kind of jumps right back in. If you're going to do that, X-Men's the one to do it with.
Yeah.
Because you get that baked in floor of everybody knows these characters. Everybody can't wait to see them done in the MCU.
Yep.
It's very
Yeah, man.
exciting.
Well, I mean, we've talked about this. X-Men's going to be the biggest movie of 2028 for the Marvel Studios perspective. Just when that releases is the big question.
Right.
But
And
that's their focus. You can tell, like that is we've been saying this for years now. X-Men is the focus following this saga, and we have a long ways to go. That is, we are past this saga. January 1st, 2028. Hopefully, we'll be here. Then we go into this new thing. But that is where we're heading.
yeah, it's definitely the end game of everything. And I love that Secret Wars has now been defined as the turnstile of pre X-Men and post X-Men era because their X-Men are in that movie
And
and they're
I,
gonna close that.
yeah, and by the way, I think the new marketing idea, not new, but like the idea of pitching Secret Wars as also a new beginning is
Mm-hmm.
really smart to get butts in seats, where it's not like the Avengers movie to end it all with Endgame, where
No,
like it is the Avengers movie to potentially kick off whatever is next, and that'll help, I think, the box office.
it's a very exciting idea. Couple smaller stories before we get to Fantastic Four, which is definitely more topical. Uh, Spider-Man stuff, David.
Hell yeah.
But Tom Holland. Spider-Man will officially, per Kevin Feige, be a street level crime oriented story as opposed to world ending events. He says himself, him being by himself dedicated to saving the city and dealing with, for lack of a better term, street level crime as opposed to world ending events. So, Grounded Spider-Man is back and it's going to be in the MCU. Other notes, the Punisher special that is coming out next year is still going to be TVMA. The Punisher and Spider-Man Brand New Day will be less so because that movie's PG-13.
Yeah.
No shit. Anybody who's upset about that, calm down.
What are you gonna
Just
do?
just calm down. You know what I mean? Like if you're so mad that the Punisher can't say fuck in a Spider-Man movie,
yeah.
don't see it. Just don't watch it. You know what I mean? You're a lost cause.
What are you gonna do? I mean,
Yeah,
it'll be great. Still be John Bernthal doing his thing, cross Tom Holland. It'll be next summer's theirs. So
yeah, it'll be very interesting. And one little note: do not expect Miles Morales anytime soon in the MCU world. Sony has asked Marvel Studios to stay away from Miles Morales until the Spider-Verse stuff is finished. That is Sony's right to do. Like, hey, you can use Peter, you can do this, that, the other. We got Miles right now. Let's finish this thing, this very special thing that we're doing before we introduce another Miles Morales. Couldn't be more happy with this news.
me too. However, my only thing is it is also Sony's right to never let Marvel Studios use Miles in live action. So let's all be just a little, we're still dealing with Sony here. We're still coming off of, Morbius and Craven, Madam Web and Venom and all this. So let's all, obviously like I'm curious how this relationship continues into the 2020s, into the 2030s at this point. If you're talking about a Miles Morales in live action, we're talking 2029, 2020, or 2030, potentially, just based on that timeline.
As somebody who just lost their franchise center to our most hated rivals in the division, I'm confident that money is going to come over any sort of dispute between
Right.
what Sony and Marvel Studios are willing to share. This makes sense in that introducing a live action Miles Morales right now, as proof by what we've talked about already, could very highly potentially dilute what Miles Morales is in the Spider-Verse movies. Those things are critically, fan wise, money, one of the most successful comic book movie franchises of all time, with a
Yeah.
third one coming out, right? Why would they even risk that happening with Marvel Studios with a live action Miles while we just have one last thing to get to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's finish one last thing. After that, I can't imagine Sony doesn't sit back and think, all right, we got him. Now let's go live action. You know what I mean? Now it's
Yeah.
time to make $1 billion with Miles. Now that he's as big as he's going to be after Beyond the Spider-Verse. That's how confident I am in that movie.
Yeah, no, I think that's yeah, I think it's gonna. I mean, I think Miles in live action will be it's going to be a top priority for Sony because they've now created another Spider-Man movie franchise, theoretically, like live action, $1 billion, blah blah blah, all the things. And it's just if whatever's happening with Marvel at the time, with Marvel Studios at the time, like because it's still a very unique, shaky situation. I still think it's kind of shaky everything that happens, and they've continued to do it. Look, we're getting brand new day, but I'm just still scarred from 2019 when it was all stripped away that one fateful late summer's fall afternoon, and then it came back eventually because people lost their minds. But
It
it
came back
really
to your favorite Spider-Man movie.
what?
It came back not it didn't just
Oh, of
come back, it
course.
came back to your favorite
Oh,
Spider-Man movie.
oh my gosh. No, it's worked. I mean, it's worked out. It's blown my mind. My dreams have come true. Like I can't be more thankful. It's just like it still is that sense of like this is a very rare business deal we have going. Then now we're gonna have going for the last 10 years. And I just hope they keep it up, because Sony's unpredictable and they want to continue to milk this Spider-Man cow.
Yeah. And I know this isn't it. If getting Beyond the Spider-Verse, as good as I hope it is, means no Miles Morales ever in the MCU, totally fine with that.
Right.
Because I mean, that's those two movies already are
Be
just
grateful for what we have. Yeah.
just perfect. Last thing before we wrap this press conference up, and also you can go read about a lot of this over on the direct.com or follow at MCU Direct on social media to get coverage on everything that Kevin Feige talked about. Fantastic Four. He talked about the Fantastic Four movie a little bit while also talking about everything else we've talked about. This was a very intentional press conference by old Feige here. You can tell everything's very tied together. Um, Talking about how the Fantastic Four is in an alternate reality. We didn't want to have the Eternals issue of where were they? Where have they been? How come they didn't help with Thanos? We wanted them to be apart from our reality so that we didn't have to say, oh, look, they were just hiding over here, basically confirming the alternate reality Fantastic Four, one, helps Secret Wars work a little better, and two, the 30 minutes of Eternals could have been cut if we
Yeah.
just didn't have to answer all those questions. Now we have a 2 hour Fantastic Four movie.
Right. I know. This is my biggest concern, I'd say, going into this film is the runtime.
Yeah, and honestly, of the list of possible concerns, it's not nothing, but we've seen short run times work. I mean,
Yeah.
sub 2 hours is
It's a very
unheard of in our
what's the
business.
Yeah, no, we should have had
The
this for the pod.
Marvels,
I wonder what on like the MCU list of runtimes where it stands. It's an hour and 56 minutes. That is notably short. That's with credits.
yeah,
Superman's 2 hours and 9 minutes with credits. That movie freaking flies by, man. Like I will
right.
be stunned if we're not coming here on Friday and being like, what a just flash in the pan. But obviously we're getting more. The short run times help with box office theoretically.
Yeah,
And the no homework thing is huge. I think it's,
absolutely.
it's a reboot. Like, and everyone knows that. No, I don't think anyone's going to Fantastic Four thinking, oh, what did I have to see before this? I think it's an obvious question or answer of nothing. Like,
Definitely.
it's a reboot with Pedro Pascal. The cast is totally new. There's no crossover in the marketing, at least. It doesn't look like the MCU. There's no MCU characters flying around. Which is crazy because like now in modern day, it's like that actually might help its box office prospect instead of the other way around.
There's enough of the multiverse thing embedded into the current MCU to make that make sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, why is there no crossovers? Different universe. Oh, you know what
Right.
I mean? Like, that's easy enough to explain to somebody when Deadpool and Wolverine makes $1.5 billion.
I mean,
Yeah, you
yeah.
can assume, but they don't have to do that. They don't have to do the um crossover thing but they also don't have to do the where were they during this thing of it
Of
all.
course. Yeah, they don't
You
have, there's
know,
no explanation needed.
when we originally heard this was going to be quote unquote set in the 60s, we thought, oh, it's going to be pre Thanos. And that's why they missed everything. Captain America style, right?
Oh yeah.
That's wrong. That's just not
Yeah.
what's happening. I like this. And also it just helps Secret Wars, man. Another chess piece for Secret Wars to bring all together to then streamline. The last thing on that 60s aesthetic, which I think and you already mentioned it, the no homework required of it all.
Right.
It just imprints you in that universe so you know that you're in something new,
They,
something original, and something that's by itself.
they wisely freed themselves of all of that. They could have made this in the universe and tried to force it, and it would have been longer. And it's true. And it would have been more difficult to work a story around the sandbox they created trying to set this in MCU 60s because it quite frankly wouldn't have made that much sense unless you
Right.
really had a workaround. So yeah, and but it make and even ironically, storyline wise in Marvel Studios, it makes more sense they're from a different universe. Like,
Yeah.
it makes way more sense. And however it works out, I can already see how it makes more sense rather than them already being on that timeline. And that's hopefully long term. Let's say we had a Fantastic Four trilogy in the MCU. This could be such a fun starting point for such like a team that evolves so greatly over the next 10 years potentially.
Yeah. And shout out Loki, shout out WandaVision, shout out Multiverse of Madness, shout out What If, shout out Spider-Man No Way Home for laying those bricks to allow them to do a press conference. Yeah, it's just a different universe and it's not that strenuous of an idea for general audiences. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
And Fantastic
Um,
Four is even unique too because we've gotten four in live action if you count, now Pedro and then also John Krasinski in Multiverse of Madness, where it's like, okay, we get there's different, even just a lot of people saw Multiverse of Madness, newsflash, people kind of already are going to get just from having seen that movie, like, yeah, there's different versions of these characters, and this is just the Pedro Pascal version.
hell, one step further, we've already seen another version of Johnny Storm. It's
Yeah.
Chris Evans, it's Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah. Same idea.
This goes back to the idea. I think they've done a pretty good job setting all of this
Right.
up. We're talking about it right now. And again, like X-Men, Fantastic Four is the one to take this risk with. It's got that baked in audience.
Yeah.
It's
And
got
this
that
is
baked in thing.
I mean, then like, we're gonna talk more about it here in a second, but like Fantastic Four also is this unique situation where this is them being able to do this for the first time in the MCU, and they really don't want to mess it up. Like
Yeah.
it's huge. This is a huge moment. It just comes off the heels of Warner Brothers and DC's biggest moment in the last 12 years, 2 weeks earlier.
Let's double punch it, man. You know what I mean? Let's
Yeah,
ride the wave.
no, seriously.
And I love look at what they're doing, not what they're saying. Daredevil, Born Again, Fantastic Four, like you said, the two biggest moments for the MCU over the last 2 years. The two biggest things that they had to get right: Daredevil, Born Again, and Fantastic Four: First Steps. Both of them, little to no crossover. There was one episode with Daredevil, Born Again where we got an MCU crossover. That's it, and it was a minimal one at
Mhm.
best. Very independent. Both of them very independent already.
Yeah.
That is the new shift. That's the new focus. It makes a lot of sense. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the Kevin Feige press conference. Fun news day. Marvel Studios taking over the week. Perfect timing. Also, you know what
Yeah,
I
I
mean?
mean, it was pre-Comic-Con's interesting. Like this was instead of doing anything at because they're gonna have it. Marvel Studios is notably having a basically zero, um, real nothing. Basically, nothing big's gonna happen at Comic-Con, and this really confirmed that because they get basically just kind of like getting ahead of it, being like, all right,
Yeah.
we're not doing anything at Comic-Con. No Hall H, no barely anything. Let's just let's just do this press conference, get it all out there, and we'll keep moving.
Very smart move, in my opinion, because Comic Con, you want to be all up, 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 excitement, future. Here's exactly what we got coming for you down the line. That's what Comic Con should be. This is a little bit more of a real conversation about the past, current, and future state of the
Totally.
MCU. This makes more sense in this preview. And also, he put enough Superman stuff in there. He has a great take on Superman. If you haven't
Yeah.
read anything about it yet, he loves Superman. No shit. Um, um,
He likes
he
James
put
Gunn's
enough.
movies. I've heard.
Yeah, they made a lot of them. He put enough Superman stuff in there to have this kind of transition. Okay, Superman. Now we're into the Fantastic Four a little bit. You know what I mean? It was a great. I think this was a great move by Marvel Studios and
It was fun to sift through last night, and even just now,
right.
we could have talked for triple the time just now and going through everything. There's just so much. There's so much to bite into. And overall, like, I think they did a great job of representing what's happening right now and what's going to be happening in the future and, a little bit of what maybe went wrong in the past.
And just because not everything's positive doesn't mean it's a bad press conference. He's
Totally.
he's setting real expectations. Who could imagine?
I also like the question they asked about like how long's your Marvel contract, and he's like, what did he say? Like a year or two, maybe
Two
less than
years,
two
a little
years or
less.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
fascinating.
fun.
I think one last thing on that, just to wrap up this Feige thing. If you're wondering if you think Feige, if that quote's like, oh, could he be out? Could you see a successor to him? I think the X-Men is his like second life in all of
Yeah,
this. I think
yeah.
maybe once that eventually dies down in 10 years or whatever, this is just getting off the rails. But like, I think Kevin Feige loves the X-Men. A lot of people
hmm
love the X-Men, of course. And I think that this is his kind of like second wind pushing forward the next 10 years.
Movies or sports. Anytime somebody talks about their contract, they can't say, "Yeah, I'm definitely going to be here forever." No, they got to make their money. You know what I mean? Contract talk is always base level.
Yeah.